The International Christian Embassy Jerusalem is your embassy in the heart of Israel, founded in 1980. From our headquarters in Jerusalem through our branches in over 80 nations and yours in Canada, we seek to challenge the Church to take up its scriptural responsibilities, to remind Israel of the promises made to her in the Bible, and to be a source of practical assistance to all the people in the land of Israel. On today's program, a minister and mom gives her testimony from the Mount of Beatitudes, an inside look at a Shabbat dinner inside the home of a rabbi, some new discoveries in the city of David, a report on bomb shelters near the Gaza border, a discussion on anti-Semitism with a director from Yad Vashem. And seeing the multitudes, he went up into a mountain, and when he was set, his disciples came unto him, and he opened his mouth and taught them.
And seeing the multitudes, he went up on a mountain, and when he was seated, his disciples came to him. Then he opened his mouth and taught them, saying, Blessed are the poor in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. Blessed are those who mourn, for they shall be comforted. Blessed are the meek, for they shall inherit the earth. Blessed are those who hunger and thirst for righteousness, for they shall be filled. Blessed are the merciful, for they shall obtain mercy. Blessed are the pure in heart, for they shall see God. Blessed are the peacemakers, for they shall be called sons of God. Blessed are those who are persecuted for righteousness' sake, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. Blessed are you when they revile and persecute you, and say all kinds of evil against you falsely for my name's sake. Rejoice and be exceedingly glad, for great is your reward in heaven, for so they persecuted the prophets who were before you. You are the salt of the earth, but if the salt loses its flavor, how shall it be seasoned? It is then good for nothing but to be thrown out and trampled underfoot by men. You are the light of the world. A city that is set on a hill cannot be hidden. Nor do they light a lamp and put it under a basket, but on a lampstand, and it gives light to all who are in the house. Let your light so shine before men, that they may see your good works and glorify your Father in heaven.
We're standing here on a mountaintop where Jesus addressed the 5,000, better known as the Beatitudes. And I have with me Bonnie Traversy. Bonnie has been with us on our ICEJ trip to film parts of Israel and have certain testimonies. And Bonnie, I'm going to say that you've touched me on this trip. There's a strength. She's wonderful. There's a strength about you, and it's combined with a humility. And I personally found that what better place to interview you. And you finally agreed to come on camera, but right here where the Beatitudes were said. I also found out just today that Bonnie is a minister. I didn't know that, Bonnie. What led you in this direction?
Well, truly, we're all ministers, really. When we've had God touch our lives, we are ministers. We're each to have. But I did have the advantage of being ordained. In October 23rd, 1976 is when I gave my heart to the Lord. So God truly changed my life at that time. And he led me to go to Cleveland, Tennessee, to go to a Bible school. I went to a Bible school. I worked in a ministry for a couple of years. And then I had the opportunity of being ordained by Lester Sumrall, Dr. Lester Sumrall. That was in 1981. And I'm not a pastor. I'm not a pastor of a church, but I've worked in ministry for years. And so it's been a blessing.
Bonnie, we have seen so much on this trip. We just came back from the tour boat where the theme was faith. There are also other themes of hope, of love. And if you were to use one of these words that more epitomizes your life, your walk, and your faith, what would that be? Faith, hope, love? Which one?
It would be faith. There's no question. My kids have said that in reference to me as well, that walking a Christian walk is not always easy. It doesn't mean it's an easy road that's going to be a smooth ride. In fact, a lot of times you can have a lot of conflict come your way. And I believe God allows that so that we can be strengthened in our faith, and not blindly follow Him, but really dig in our roots. I think of a palm tree. You know, the essence of a palm tree, when the wind blows the palm tree, the roots go down deeper and the palm tree bends. I lived in Florida where I saw hurricanes, and we'd sit out actually in the corner of our house and watch the effects of the hurricane, and palm trees would bend right over and then they would come back up again when the storm was done. But the roots go down deeper. And so through trials and tribulations, to keep your focus on the Lord, my strength is there. I know that I know that I know the God in whom I believe and who has redeemed me, and He has seen me through all kinds of things. It's incredible.
You have said something very important and authentic for Christianity, that a lot of youth today, they don't get that kind of an encouragement to ask questions. As you said, not blindly, but ask the questions. I mean, Scripture talks about growing in wisdom and in stature and before God and man even. In fact, that was the description of Christ. And it talks about the importance to be wise. My people are destroyed for lack of knowledge.
Yes.
What are your thoughts when it comes to the youth today, wanting to know, wanting that real experience and to ask questions? Because I feel that you encourage that based on what you just explained there.
Well, I have 4 children, and 21, 20, 16, and a 15-year-old, so I can kind of attest to this. And today, there is so much information. They have so much information at their fingertips, and I feel that the youth of today want authenticity. They don't like, they know when they're being snowed over, and they want reality. And I know with my own children, they've had to go through that questioning. And I don't mind that. I think that, again, gets their roots down deep. I don't want them blindly following. I want them that they can know why they believe and go through whatever challenges they need to go through. But to have the confidence that when they come back out, that they know why they believe.
Well, Bonnie, clearly you have the confidence in God to manage your children, and that's where the test sometimes is.
Yes.
Thank you so much for sharing your heart, Bonnie.
Thank you.
Remember the Sabbath day to keep it holy. 6 days shalt thou labor and do all thy work, but the 7th day is the Sabbath of the Lord thy God.
It's important to understand that before Shabbat, so really people were working 7 days a week. Really, if you think about it, the same way that animals just continue going without stop. And really the invention of Shabbat, which is really God's gift to us, the idea of stopping, right? Stop creating, stop doing, is a tremendous gift and a tremendous contribution really to the entire world, to all of mankind. And we can actually take one day out of the entire week, okay, and just say, you know what? Just like God stopped creating on the 7th day, so we can stop creating, working, doing, okay? And that's what we do. But it doesn't mean, as Leila mentioned, it doesn't mean that we just sit around and stare at each other in the dark. It means that we actually celebrate, we come together as a family. We come together as friends and as a community. The level of discussion, the things we talk about, become different. They're enriched. They're infused. Okay? The way they relate to each other. Okay? So this is what's happening, as you can see by our Shabbat table. You notice there's wine? That's fruit of the vine. Fruit of the vine. And, we know that every single thing can either be elevated or it can be brought right down. Wine is a great example. We know only of too many examples in homes, unfortunately, in our society, where alcohol has been the ruin of relationships, of individuals, of families, of communities. And yet, the very same wine can be elevated and be used as celebration and be used for bringing families together and strengthening relationships in families. So our goal is to raise these things. Wine is a perfect example, and we're going to be doing Kiddush, which means sanctification. We're going to be sanctifying the wine, which will bring us into the Sabbath, and we'll be doing that this evening as well. We talked about the challah and the table settings, and at the end of the meal, there's going to be a blessing after the meal, right? We're used to the idea of blessing before the meal, but Jews, we also say thank you, right? Thank you to God for really creating this opportunity for us to be together and to celebrate together and to break bread together and to have this. That's what we're going to be doing this Shabbat. In a few moments now, we're going to be lighting candles, which will be bringing in the Sabbath. And from that moment on, we're in a whole different phase. You know, it's said that as much as Sabbath, as much as the Jewish people have kept the Sabbath day throughout history, really, it's been Sabbath that has kept the Jews. In many respects, the idea that Shabbat has created a Jewish community, a Jewish family to come together, and we've been doing this for thousands of years, and we're doing it again tonight. So welcome and Shabbat Shalom.
So as you can see before you, beautifully set Shabbat table, and part of Shabbat, on Shabbat we do two things. One is we do Shamor v'Zachor. We honor and remember, and we also keep. So there's things that we do just to beautify the Shabbat, to enjoy, to celebrate Shabbat, and there's things that we do in order to observe, to make sure that we don't, that we're careful on Shabbat to not do things that we're not allowed to do. Most of what we have in front of us on the Shabbat table are things that are celebratory. They're and each thing has its own significance and its own meaning. And so we have here in front of us the chalot. We have here two braided chalot, two complete loaves of bread, and people sometimes make their own, anything to make it more special, to honor the Shabbat. And so first of all, as you notice, it was covered. Why is it covered? Well, on Shabbat, we're going to make the blessing over the wine. We're going to do a blessing over the wine. And after the blessing over the wine, we're going to do a blessing over the bread. Now, in Jewish tradition, everything has a certain significance. Everything has an order of how you're supposed to do things. So during the week, we would do the opposite. We would first bless the bread and then the wine. So why do we cover the challah? We cover the challah so the challah won't get embarrassed that, wait, I'm supposed to be first, and how come the wine went first? Now, it sounds ridiculous, but actually it's very, very interesting, because the idea is that if we go so far to make sure the bread doesn't get embarrassed, then all the more so that we don't embarrass our fellow friends, other people, and so it's just a little reminder we have here on the Shabbat table. We have the two chalot. Everything on the Shabbat table is somehow connected to the temple, to the Beit HaMikdash, the temple that stood in Jerusalem, 1,000 years, first temple, the second temple, and today, Judaism today is living in the memory of the temple and of the hope for the future temple. And so everything that we do, many of our rituals, our prayers, are connected to what we had in the temple. And so we have the two chalot. Two chalot are the chalot are a memory of the lechem hapanim, the showbread, the bread that was in the temple, in the Beit HaMikdash. And interesting, everything in the temple had significance. So the bread that was in the temple was a symbol of spiritual blessing, physical blessing in the world. The menorah, the light, that represented spiritual blessing in the world. And the bread, the lechem hapanim, the loaves of bread that were in the temple, that represented blessing in the physical world. Now, what is blessing in the physical world? The idea is that every Shabbat, all of the Kohanim, the priests, the people who are serving in the temple, they would be given a little tiny piece of the bread to eat. It would be hot and fresh. It was a miracle on Shabbat, just and it had been sitting there actually for a week from the last Shabbat. It would be as hot and fresh as it was just made. That was the miracle of it. And another miracle was that this little tiny piece of bread was so satisfying to them. It was as if they'd eaten a whole meal. They'd eaten one little piece of bread, and that's the idea of blessing in the physical realm. That you're so satisfied, whatever you have in the world, you're so happy with it, you're so satisfied with it, and that's the significance of the bread in the temple. And the bread we have here on the table on Shabbat, we have two of them. We have two loaves, reminding us of the manna in the desert. Every day the manna would fall in the desert, and there would be enough food for that day. On Shabbat, a double portion would fall, so they wouldn't have to work on Shabbat to collect food. They wouldn't have to worry. It would double portion would come, and so that's why we have two loaves of bread on the Shabbat table at all the meals.
Up next, new discoveries from the city of David.
So we've just
across the street, and now we're on the west side of the old city of David. This is an exciting excavation here going on behind us.
In a little bit more than the last 10 years, they've been working in this place. It was a parking lot actually originally, and now a museum is going to be built here one day once they finish all this. But on the way, they found, till this moment, 11 different layers of ruins. Since the Middle Ages, about 1,000 years ago, down to the First Temple period, 26, 27, 2,800 years back. The main thing you can actually see right now is a massive structure that we can see its side rooms right here behind us. The other end of the same structure is at the other end of the excavation site. It's a very large house with rooms all around, a big garden in the middle, and of course, a few nice little things. I'm sure you all know that when an earring is lost, it's only one earring. The other pair, we need to keep it. So one earring was found right here. It's this earring you can see right here.
Beautiful.
Golden earring with pearls and emeralds.
Pearls and emeralds.
Where's the other one? Well, I don't know. This is from about 1,800 years ago, from the Roman days. I don't know where the other one is. But this was found in one of the rooms of this house. Roof tiles were found here with Roman letters on them, mentioning the 10th Roman Legion, the one that destroyed Jerusalem year 70, but rebuilt it as a new Roman city on top of the ruins in the next 2 centuries. One of the most amazing finds found here, December 2008, was found in these rooms right down below us. These are parts of cellars and the beginning of the first floor of a building from about 1,400 years ago, the 6th and 7th century. And inside one of these rooms, 264 gold coins were found. All clean, never used, from the mint, wrapped in a little bit piece of cloth, put on a shelf, and never used. The building was destroyed the next year. The coins are from 613, the building was destroyed 614 in a massive fire, and no one came to get this gold back home.
It's happened here, but you don't see it. So you start knocking on the door and it's locked. And you say, what can I do now? Maybe there's people die inside, or I don't know. And at the end you come inside and you see that there's a hole in the roof, and the motor, the shell motor tail is on the couch, and the whole room is ruined. And you say, thanks God that the family is in Eilat.
To the border fence of Gaza is 2 kilometers. The flying time of a rocket, depends where it's launched from, is approximately 20 seconds. So if the launch is picked up, we have anything from 0 to 20 seconds warning. Sometimes we have no warning, or we have a warning at the same time as the explosion. Depends what size of missile, where it's fired from, and so on. And when we get a warning, it's basically just to take cover wherever we can, and that's why we have these bomb shelters. There's 3 bomb shelters over there, because this is a bus stop, and we have them spaced out more or less even in the kibbutz, that people can have these 15 seconds hopefully to get to a bomb shelter. And this is ultimately what happens.
We are here in Kfar Asa, which is just a few miles away from the border to the Gaza Strip. And yesterday evening at 8:20 a siren was ringing here in the village, and 10 seconds later a rocket came down here into the village and was hitting here this art gallery. It's a place where normally at this time children would be taught, but thanks God yesterday evening there were no children there, there was no teacher there, so nobody got injured. But it shows you the reality on the ground here at the border of Gaza. It takes literally 10 seconds from the time when the alarm is being rung until people have time to take shelter. It shows you the destruction of those missiles, and also it shows you that the people here in this region, they urgently need help to have more and more safer bomb shelters here in this region. you see behind me is that we are putting a bomb shelter which will serve a youth community here in the kibbutz Kfar Saba, and the weight of this bomb shelter is 16 tons, and it will provide approximately 16 people safety when the sirens are going on. What you see behind me is the city of Gaza, and out of Gaza over the last few days more than 200 missiles have been shot on Israel. It's a very tense situation. Just over the last few hours we heard many explosions from the region here. We saw missiles going over our heads. So the people who are living here in this neighborhood, they are going through very difficult times, and the Christian embassy in those days, we are standing at their side. We want to show them we support them, and we want to do everything in order to make sure that they have an added protection to their community. And you should know that we are here today because there are millions of evangelicals. They support you, and they want to do everything to keep you from moving out here and to make sure that you can stay.
I know that, and I appreciate it, and I want to read something to you which I looked up for you, and it's a quote that was made by Martin Luther King many years ago. It says, "The ultimate measure of a man is not where he stands in moments of comfort and convenience, but where he stands in time of challenge and controversy." That's when you judge your true friends, not when they sit in an armchair and we discuss over a glass of wine what to do. When we're in trouble, that's when you have friends. That's when you find your friends.
Up next, a discussion on anti-Semitism with a director from Yad Vashem.
Welcome to the world from Jerusalem, overlooking Mount Zion here in Jerusalem. And today we have with us a very special guest, Mr. Shaya Ben Yehuda, the Director of International Relations at Yad Vashem. Shaya, it's such a great honor to have you here on our show today.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be with you. It's a wonderful opportunity to speak and to reach out to the Christian community. Thank you for the invitation, Jürgen.
It's a great pleasure. You are working at Yad Vashem. It's one of the largest organizations here in this land. And I believe every tourist which visited Israel, visited the place of Yad Vashem. Tell our viewers, what exactly is Yad Vashem? What is the vision and purpose of that institution?
Yad Vashem is a World Holocaust Center. It has been established by survivors who came from the Holocaust at the early 50s. It's a national state authority, and Yad Vashem was established as a place to gather the document and to study it, a research institute and a place of commemoration. Along the years we have realized that in order to tell the stories, especially to those who have not been there, you must build a museum. So Yad Vashem opened the first museum in the world in 1970. About a decade ago, we opened a new museum at Yad Vashem, which is the most important museum about the Holocaust today in the world, which enable people to understand what the Jewish people went through during the Holocaust. It's a place that gives you a little bit insight to what it was, because one who has not been there cannot really grasp it, but it tells you in a meaningful way that people survived such an atrocity.
What does Yad Vashem actually mean, this Hebrew word?
This Hebrew word, Yad Vashem, is from the book of Isaiah, chapter 56, where Isaiah speaks to the nation, or not to the nation, to every human being. Then I say that every human being who will follow the way of justice, the way of righteousness, the way of the Lord, will have a place of memory within the house of the Lord. This is the phrase Yad Vashem, a memorial to the name.
Now, Shaya, with your history as the son of Holocaust survivors, you undertook a very courageous step 7 years ago. You went to the leadership of Yad Vashem and you challenged them to establish a Christian desk at Yad Vashem. This, I believe, is a historic step for the nation of Israel and, of course, also for Jewish-Christian relations around the world. What exactly is this Christian desk at Yad Vashem?
I've said that if in this place we can establish a Christian Friends of Yad Vashem, which will enable us to teach the Christian world, to build bridges between Jews and the Christian world, and also to raise support for Yad Vashem and to the work of Yad Vashem. It will give a message that we can put the past behind us. We cannot ignore it, but we can put the past behind us and build a joint mission, a ministry together to build a better future for humanity.
And that means there are coming today pastors groups, there are coming all kind of Christian groups to visit Yad Vashem and to be educated about our Christian history, about the Holocaust and how the church acted during that time.
You're absolutely right. Within 2 weeks before the Holocaust Memorial Day, Yom HaShoah, we are opening another seminar for Christian leaders, for Christian pastors from all over the world. We bring them for a week to Yad Vashem in order that they can study about the Holocaust, they can study about the work of Yad Vashem, and they can study about how they have to teach their own communities, and when they go back, they can continue to educate their communities.
Even to them I will give in my house and within my walls a place and a name, better than that of sons and daughters. I will give them an everlasting name that shall not be cut off. Thank you for joining us today, and be sure to visit our website at www.icejcanada.tv. 100% of what we receive from you toward a project goes to that designation. Through your contribution to ICEJ Canada, you can participate by giving to Bet Singer Children's Orphanage Bathrooms, Christian Friends of Yad Vashem, Home for Holocaust Survivors, Israeli Youth at Risk Summer Camp in Canada, Operation Life Shield Bomb-Proof Shelters, Red Carpet Project Women at Risk in Tel Aviv, Shoulder to Shoulder New Immigrant Partner Project, Women's Shelter Project, General Fund, Gift Estate Securities Funds, ICEJ Communication Media Fund.